Hey, Darbii, what's your joke?
Oh, no. Okay.
Nothing can be worse than Parker, so just say it.
Knock, knock.
Who's
there?
Hula.
Say it.
Ooh, chicks.
Oh, man.
Did you miss it, Parker?
Well, it's hard to hear from over here, but
Yeah.
the podcast will pick it up.
I heard it.
It's a hula hoop.
Oh, fuck.
It's the joke. Oh my god!
Who's this?
Hey, welcome to Garagecast.
Thank you. I think I was waiting for it.
I'm Elli. To my right,
Are you?
Who's in front of us?
Me, Aiden.
We didn't specify a direction, so that's understandable.
Yeah, no, we both just pointed at each other and waited.
that's fine.
Spider-Man.
And, as always, our editor.
Darbii!
Yay!
You can find us all at Adelenthris on Instagram, at Hughes.music on Instagram.
Why are you saying Hughes? You
I don't know.
say it all the time.
Hughes.
Spell that for me?
Hues.
At AidNextW and at DCB Crash.
Yeah.
And
Let's get the show
also
on the road. No.
At, I was gonna
Oh,
say the Garagecast
smart.
Instagram,
Yeah.
but never mind, you know? I'm being silenced.
At something Garagecast.
The underscore
It's not at
underscore
I
Garagecast.
think it's at _Garagecast.
I don't know our Instagram tag.
I just said understore, so.
Yeah. Anyway, keeping
we-
on the track of last episode.
I was gonna say, before we talk about our theme,
Oh, okay.
Oh, God.
how did everyone enjoy the art that's on the Instagram, hopefully, at this point?
Oh, yeah.
Good
Oh!
That's
I
a
love
smart
them.
point.
Yeah, Aiden,
Aiden
you
did
are,
them.
You are
They're
smart.
great.
Well, you see, Aiden, I thought that the reception on Instagram was just so good.
They
I
haven't
was
gone
really
up yet.
excited,
Just
that we got
as
a
we're
whole 3
filming.
likes.
3? Oh!
Wouldn't be uncharacteristic
That's
for my art.
shooting for the stars.
no.
On a serious note, the art of me, you gave me a better beard than I actually have.
Well, yeah.
I mean,
And
I think all
no,
of
no,
them-
I'm very happy about it.
You're welcome.
I think all of the art for it is really, really good.
Thank you.
Aiden
No, it's
took
really
the
well
time out of his busy schedule of being a college kid. Of being a college kid who plays games a lot.
And taking time out of his busy schedule of Halo SWAT on a constant repeat.
No joke.
To draw Garagecast
Unfortunately.
people, which I for one really appreciate, and I think they're really, really cool.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I hope that all of you did, in fact, give them more than 3 likes. And if you didn't, I swear, if you didn't give them 3 likes, I'm gonna be really upset.
I'll be okay.
Speaking of
I'm
likes,
used to it.
We know you got
something we are
Finstas.
going
Like
to
them
implement
twice.
for the next Garagecasts that I've talked to everyone about that they've probably all forgotten about is if you share the next a Garagecast episode and then show us that you've shared it, we will shout you out on the podcast.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, the first
I've
person
talked
we're
this
shooting
about
at.
you. I've talked
Shooting
to
out.
this
Oh,
to
no.
all of you numerous times.
Do you have any idea how many people talk to me about things?
I
Hey,
am literally the one that you should remember things about.
Parker. I remember.
This.
I remember.
Yeah.
I also remember.
You know what? You're not wrong.
Thank you.
What were we talking about?
Anyways, the art has hopefully gone up. Hope you all enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Next, maybe we'll do actual pictures.
Also, before we get
Who
to our
knows?
theme, how's everybody's week? Did anybody do anything they're proud of or anything else productive? I mean, Aiden did art.
That's true.
I know I personally did art furthering for I pretty much have gotten all the mechanics done for Clock Tower class, D&D class. I mentioned it briefly on the last episode. It's almost done. I just have to do all the art for it and painstakingly arrange all of the art and get it all finalized so that I can maybe post it somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if anybody is interested in a made from scratch D&D class, but if you are, let me know because I'm
think
I'm
most
over
of our-
here in this corner.
I think most of our audience is considering we talk about D&D and nerd stuff a lot of the time. I think
Well, we don't know what the feedback is on last episode. Everybody could be on YouTube right now, like typing up a storm about how we need to stop talking about D&D because it's the most boring thing.
which we won't because we live and breathe it. It's literally in our blood.
I mean,
it's in my blood.
maybe you
You're
guys.
a baby.
It's a little bit in my blood.
Yeah,
A little bit.
just a little.
Just a little.
Anyway, but yeah, I'm actually really proud of some of the art that I did. I'll probably.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It looks amazing.
I mean, you learned how to do stuff on Blender.
Oh right, I should talk about that.
You should.
Over the past 3 to 5 days, I taught myself how to 3D model using YouTube and the internet.
Yeah.
Well, technically, somebody on YouTube taught me how to 3D model, and I just listened and followed tutorials.
Can I
But,
say something
wait,
that I think is kind
listened?
of funny?
Yeah,
Oh, that's interesting.
I listen to people on the internet. Anyway.
I think it's funny that Ellie was like, "How was all your week?" and then started to talk about herself.
Well, there was like silence. I had to fill it. But also, are you really surprised?
No,
No, not at all.
Hey, how you doing? So anyway, I really learned this new cool thing.
I
be
taught
fair.
myself how to 3D model. Maybe I'll throw those up on the Garagecast Instagram. At some point after this episode comes out,
Yeah.
if people want to see it. What'd you do this week?
Well, I have some new projects coming out within the first to second quarter of the year. I think I have 5 albums dropping from 5 different people, including myself.
Damn.
And I think I might be getting my real estate license. So,
Whoa.
Seriously?
yeah, I learned about that today.
Well done.
Yeah. So
Wow.
I'm working towards that, and I think most of the money I'll be getting from it will go into not only affording a place, but putting it back into...
Yeah, welcome to my world of
Yeah.
all of my money goes back into this place.
Well, that could be all of my money, but like a good amount of it. I got
All of my money goes back into
You
this
live
place.
here.
You do realize I only come out to this garage when everyone's here, right?
That is a good point, but you live in the general vicinity of the garage.
Yeah, I live
You're-
adjacent to the...
Your
It's
heart
on your
lives
land.
here.
Huh?
Your heart lives here.
Well, that's true, and at McDonald's.
They're your Horcruxes.
Yeah. I mean, okay, no joke. There is a 4-foot tall trash bag in my room of just McDonald's bags.
And you almost threw
So
a
I have
fit
a
at a
problem.
McDonald's the other day as well.
Did I?
Do you not remember when they didn't give us their like full order? And
Okay, they're usually really good, but they gave. I ordered a thing and they went, "Hey, can you pull forward and park?" And I went, "Yeah, okay." And I pulled forward and park. And nobody likes pulling forward and parking when you're at a drive-through. Like the whole
Yeah.
point of a drive-through is to get your food and go.
Yeah.
And they had me pull forward and park, and then they came over with the sweet teas and handed me my sweet teas and said, "Okay, have a good night," and then walked off. And I went, "Wait, can I get my food though?" And they were like, "What did you order?" I was like, "An entire order though?"
And this came at a night to where you were both very hungry. And
I was
like,
so hungry.
Yeah.
it just was not good. And then you got the food and they forgot to give you all the sauces.
Yeah, can I just say, I don't eat McDonald's because I like McDonald's. I eat McDonald's because I live in a town that after 10 o'clock at night, there are only 2 places open. Actually, there's 3. I've recently learned that there's at least 3 places open that are open 24 hours, and that's Jack in the Box, McDonald's, and Denny's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know about other
I
people, but I feel
understand.
like Jack in the Box's quality has dropped, so.
You'll sometimes get lucky with an IHOP depending on the time, but it's really just those.
Not
three.
here.
No, really?
Our
Yeah,
IHOP
no.
is not 24 hours. Our IHOP closes at like 10.
Yeah.
Wow.
Anyway, Darby, what'd you do this week?
I survived another year.
Hell yes.
Happy
birthday
Happy birthday
Darby.
to
Thanks. I am 1 year older than I was.
No, this- Go, just talk.
Cool.
Stop talking over Darby.
I
It's
got
her
it.
time to shine.
I was gonna be Parker, but I like, you know what? Let Darby talk. It's our time to shine.
Oh, thanks.
It's so nice of you to give Darby some time.
Well, because I was gonna be stupid, but I was like, you know,
You're
let's
always
give her
stupid.
time.
We know. Anyways.
Sorry, Darby, you can talk now.
Thanks. I lived another year. I got a new car.
That's true.
Congratulations.
Awesome things. I've
Cool car.
yeah, it's a really cute 2007
Volkswagen Rabbit.
Volkswagen Rabbit.
2007.
2007. It doesn't even have an aux cord.
It's got a cute little rabbit on it.
It does have a cute little rabbit on it. She's very cute. She's smaller than me, which isn't saying like
I mean, the car
I'm
is not
very
actually
small.
smaller
Words.
than you.
I'm
though.
very small.
Hey, and you know what? You have a car, so congrats.
Yeah,
There's
it's
actually
great.
a picture of her and the car on her Instagram.
There is.
You can go check that out at
DCP Crash.
We're editing all those out, right?
what?
All of the mention of Darby's Instagram.
That's
Oh.
rude.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like,
I
sure.
mean, Darby is.
Yeah.
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 Darby talking about her week is pointless. She's just gonna have to edit it out. When we
Yeah.
put out the podcast. So.
Yeah, it's true.
I hate you all.
Hey, Darby, when you edit this, can you just edit out everything Who's said?
Yeah.
Well, if you're gonna do that, then Darby, since it's your birthday, Darby, yeah.
You can keep it in as big booty.
Darby, you got a car.
We're not
I
starting
heard
that
Thank you.
at all. We're
I'm
not
so
doing
happy
it.
that it was just me doing it the whole time.
So,
For our listening audience, I stared at Who's dead in the eyes the entire time he was doing that, hoping
you guys
that
hear
he would
Darby?
stop. No.
Darby said you could keep it as big booty.
Ah.
There you go.
Ellie was very amused. Who's
So-
was not.
Speaking of Darby surviving another year,
I will survive.
our theme for this week's
Year?
podcast
Oh my God.
is
Oh my
survival
God.
horror games.
Okay, you know what? This is not a joke. Good segue. That was genuine. Good segue.
Yeah, good segue.
Good segue.
Oh, I hate everything. Anyway, survival horror games. For those that don't know, my first tattoo I ever got, long before I was a tattoo artist, was a gift from a friend of mine named. And it was the umbrella symbol, or it is the umbrella symbol from Resident Evil. I love Resident Evil. Even as silly and ridiculous as the Aiden tossed the limb dice while I'm trying to start this feed across the room on his couch.
Shut down.
Couldn't see what
Can
it
you
is.
see what it is?
Pulled out his phone so that he could zoom in and see what it was. Like a.
Do you want to know what it is?
No. Okay. What is it? Are we just doing this now? Or are we getting it out of the way?
Do it.
I don't know if I want to now. It seems very unwelcomed.
Was it ever welcomed in the first place?
No.
Just say it.
For those
Just
that
say it.
can't see,
Let us-
Ellie's face is pain. It's just
You know what?
distraught.
That crazy that you mentioned face because it's the head.
Ache.
So Resident Evil.
It's Resident Evil. I genuinely enjoy Resident Evil as a series in several ways, similar to how Aiden enjoyed. What are we laughing at now? I can't talk about anything.
We're good. We're
This
fine.
is what it feels
We're
like
here.
to be Darby.
We're good. We're good
New
boys.
bit.
We're
Every
good
time
boys.
Aiden throws the limb dice, we actually hit him in whatever body part he yells.
Ooh.
Or I hit you with that body part.
Please don't hit me with your head.
No.
Ow. You know how, like,
Absolutely not.
rock solid his
Aiden
noggin
headbutting
is?
somebody will knock him out. So, the Resident Evil series has gone downhill and is starting to go uphill. We talked about it a little bit on the on one of the other podcasts, but
Sure.
Resident Evil 2, the remake, was really, really good. And Resident Evil 3, I've seen other trailers. Despite the fact that Nemesis has a nose and Jill looks weird and Carlos his hair looks like a mop. Nemesis looks like he acts like
Yeah.
Nemesis. So there was this thing after the Resident Evil movie that Nemesis like was this slow moving giant, and then they made a really terrible Resident Evil game called Resident Evil Operation Raccoon City that Nemesis was in, and Nemesis moved like he did in the movie. He was like this slow, clunky thing.
Sure.
And the reason he moved like that in the movie was because he was a big dude in a big suit that couldn't move very fast.
Yeah.
So they made him move slowly and ominously.
But in reality, he pretty quick.
In 3, if you go back and play 3, he sprints at you from one end of a map to the other. And he punches you in the face or smacks you in the face with a rocket launcher.
Yeah, Marvel vs. Capcom 3.
Yeah, no.
Nemesis
You
right.
heard that right, Aiden.
Yeah.
He doesn't shoot you. Well, he sometimes does shoot you with the rocket launcher.
But it's mainly a.
But sometimes he runs up to you like a full sprint
Is
and
this-
just hits you with it.
Is it like a thick rocket launcher or like a realistic rocket launcher?
It's one of those pipe rocket launchers, like the kind that look like a tube.
Okay.
And you gotta remember this was very low polygon days.
Right.
So
In Marvel
right.
vs. Capcom 3, he has a super where he literally runs at you and smacks you with the rocket launcher.
that's what he does in the game.
Yeah.
That seems like a not very good use of a rocket launcher.
Well, I mean, I think it's usually after he's fired it once,
Okay.
and then he runs up and
Yeah.
smacks
so
you
he,
with
so
it.
he has to
useful.
reload.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, but instead of reloading, he just
just
uses
hits
it
you,
as a
yeah.
melee weapon. He's
Yeah.
like a
Yeah.
D&D character.
Yeah.
He just runs up. Or You know what? Nemesis, new Smash Brothers character.
Oh my god. I would be so down. You just
Smash! His super is he just hits you with a rocket launcher.
Poor little Animal Crossing babies, just like, house?
Animal Crossing baby, it grabs it by the face, and a tentacle just comes out the back of the
Oh
Animal
my
Crossing
God.
character's head.
Isabel, no!
Oh no!
It just starts speaking in garbled Animal Crossing.
Darby's face is gold right now, but one of the things Nemesis is famous for is in the third, he grabs Brad Vickers by the face, and you just see the back of Brad Vickers' head, and a tentacle just goes. Because out of Nemesis's hand, a tentacle like whips around, and he'll whip you with it sometimes. It's pretty gnarly. But if Nemesis was a Smash Brothers character, you know he'd be picking Isabel up and just, oh no, Isabel, please.
Oh.
Oh, God.
Oh, there's a reason he's not a character in Smash Brothers.
Good segue to a topic we're not talking about yet, but...
What do you mean?
Why did you turn into an Animal Crossing character?
Who's if it wasn't Nemesis, who would you put in Smash Brothers?
Dante from Devil May Cry.
Really?
Yes.
Well, I mean, Bayonetta's in it.
I know.
So,
That's my point. Dante would be a really good fit.
but which Dante?
Okay, the troll answer is the DMC Dante, but in reality, it's the DMC3 Dante.
Please tell me you don't like DMC.
Okay, as what? Because it's a game.
As a
It's a
good
fun
video
game.
game? Oh
It's
my
a fun
God.
game.
It's
Edgy and angsty.
as a part of the Devil May Cry series.
I don't even consider it a part of the Devil May Cry series because
Good.
the gameplay of it is not DMC. It's
Okay.
DMC based.
Okay. So Devil May Cry, Aiden, who would you put into Smash Brothers?
I don't know. Here's my two options that I was going to choose that are like just random characters.
Uh-huh.
One, because I've been playing a lot of Halo, just to add Master Chief in there, or maybe even Noble Six. You know?
Would he fight like he does in Halo 5, or would he fight like Monty Ohms, directing how he fights?
Probably like he fights in Halo 5.
Wah, wah.
Who would be
I mean,
your
it's
second
Smash
option,
Bros.
In Smash Bros. So he'd be like a Ganondorf character then. He'd be
Sure.
slow and hit really hard.
Yeah. And he'd have an assault rifle that does nothing.
Chip damage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the other character is like Joel from The Last of Us. You know? Why not?
Just throwing bricks.
Yeah. You know?
Okay, what would be Joel's super?
Well.
Lying?
The psychic damage.
Ay.
Joel ends every match. He's just kneeling down to Ellie, just like, yeah, no, they all had to die.
Well, that's not a lie. That's telling the truth.
True. Darby, what
Very
about you?
uncharacteristic.
I have one character and one character only. Blanca from Super Street Fighter. Now, okay.
I mean,
I was not expecting this answer. Continue.
I am 100% not surprised.
So every time I play a game that is like a versus game, it's always like I have to find my Blanca, because Blanca is the one character that I can just destroy anybody if I am playing as Blanca.
I love the way you say, I have to find my Blanca.
Honestly,
Awesome.
like
Blanca voted most button mashable in Street Fighter.
this is the point.
To be fair, I have no room to speak because, like, you remember when we used to play Injustice: Gods Among Us, the first one?
Such a good game.
I played Deathstroke, and we would play on. There's the one Gotham map that has the dumpster,
Yep.
and I would just jump from
Yeah.
one
I'm
side
dying.
to the other, chucking the dumpster across the
I
screen.
hate you.
And I would win fights just by throwing that dumpster back and forth.
When I was younger and I used to live in my hometown, I used to play video games with this dude, and we would play Injustice. And almost every single time, he would pick Ares, and he had the knee kicks. Where for some reason, if you didn't know what to do, he could just go knee kick, knee kick, knee kick from one side of the screen to the other. I would leave his house furious.
I was actually really good with Harley Quinn.
Yeah, no, we
I would just
got
jump around.
we got Injustice 2 and Harley Quinn. Whoa. And Harley Quinn in that game has guns and a treat that you can chuck, and her dogs come out.
Hyenas.
Sorry.
I mean, he's right. They are hyenas.
That's what
We see your point.
I think they're Bud and Lou. I think their names are Bud and Lou.
and they just
Who really cares?
pound into the person that you're fighting. A small hand raise.
I raised my hand. I care. Anyway,
I would always play as Green Lantern whenever I needed to win.
Of course you did.
Yeah,
Of course you did.
No, not even because I'm a Green Lantern, Mark, but because of the fact that he had the down forward move where he would just grab you and throw you to either side, and then you could use it again. He would throw you to the other side, and it was just a constant.
Yeah,
just
good
you.
good luck fighting the dumpster assassin, Parker.
I could beat the dumpster assassin with Green Lantern.
Absolutely not.
I totally could.
and since we're so far away from it now, I'm gonna save who I would have my Smash Brothers character be, for the very end. But right now, Aiden, you said Joel as one of your
Sure.
Okay.
Picks for Smash Brothers characters.
Here we go.
Is The Last of Us a survival horror game?
Oh, good segue.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I guess.
Depends.
Depends, because, like, survival horror is different from a survival game,
Right.
completely.
Is it?
Yeah,
Is
well,
it?
when you classify a survival game as a survival game, usually there are, like, you need to get resources and food.
Because the question I ask is what quantifies survival? Because in all reality, in most games, the objective is to survive.
That's not the objective in Animal Crossing.
No, but in like a lot of shooters, the objective is to survive. A lot of action
Is
games,
the objective
is
to survive, or is the objective to kill more than you die?
Good point.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there are still like in
Because I wouldn't quantify Halo as a survival game.
Yeah, no. But, like, there's
yeah.
a difference between survival horror and survivor.
Agreed.
Or survival.
But here's my thing: what is Don't Starve? For those of you who
It's a
don't
survival
know,
game.
Don't Starve, but Don't
But
Starve
it has horror elements.
Has a lot of horror elements. Like the fact that you
True.
have to not be in the
I
dark.
would classify Don't Starve as survival, horror. However, Resident Evil I would classify as survival horror.
That was going to be my argument, is that in today's landscape, I think survival horror can be an overarching genre, but it's also in a lot of subgenres of games.
Did you want to look up survival and survival horror? Because I have it looked up.
Oh, do you?
Yes.
Yeah, I was gonna what is the definition by Google of survival and survival horror?
There's
Because I always thought that it was survival, horror.
Survival games are a subgame of action video games set in a hostile, intense, open-world environment where players generally begin with minimal equipment and are required to collect resources, craft tools, weapons, and shelter, and survive as long as possible. And then survival horror...
Interesting.
Says, survival horror is a subgenre of video games inspired by horror fiction that focuses on survival of the character as the game tries to frighten players with either horror graphics or scary ambiance.
So a game that tries to frighten players, Don't Starve doesn't really frighten the viewer.
I disagree.
Jake.
Have you been playing that game with headphones on and heard the wolves howling in the distance?
Okay, well there's that.
Have you been have you not had a fire on or anything to make fire in your inventory, and the light slowly starts going away in that game, and
you
you're
start seeing the eyes in the fucking
I'm
background
going
and-
to die right now.
Yeah, but does it scare you as you, or does it scare you for your character?
Both?
Okay.
I still stand by survival, horror.
Is Don't Starve a survival, horror game?
No, because you can fight the bad guys.
But it's
Yeah, but
I mean, I guess you can... whatever. I don't know. It's just... I don't think that it's... I don't know. I think it's survival horror. I think it's survival, horror.
Wonder what Google says. Because that honestly is probably the one that I'm most, interested in as to what it's classified as, because it sets the precedent for a lot of whether or not other things are survival horror games. Because the thing that I thought separated survival horror games from survival horror games was not in that description at all.
What is your opinion on that?
Let me look up Don't Starve real quick.
Don't Starve is a survival video game developed by
Survival
Canadian indie
game.
video game company
But
Klein
it's a survival
Entertainment.
game with horror elements.
Right.
I don't think
Yeah.
it has enough like
The-
survival horror to be a survival horror.
The genre that it specifies under
It's
is
survival game.
action adventure game.
What? Where do you look it up? Because on Google it says survival game.
Okay, I'm gonna.
What?
I think there's
Google.
also a case to be made that because of where video games are right now, the idea of this game is this genre is antiquated because almost every game has elements of every other genre nowadays.
That's a good point.
And a good game should.
Here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look it up on Steam and see what the tags are.
Because Aiden, I have Don't Starve right here. It says genre survival game.
I'm gonna look it up on Steam and see what the tags are.
Yeah.
Because Don't Starve is, if you took all of its pieces, it can be an adventure game, it could be a survival game, a horror game, a cooperative game, an action game if you want to go that far, a puzzle game if you want to go that far. It has numerous different genres. I think trying to quantify any game in today's landscape as one genre doesn't make sense.
So what is a survival horror game to you? Who's like, what makes up a survival horror game? Because I know what mine is, but I'd like to hear other people's opinions before I say mine.
A survival horror game to me, and this is gonna come out very jumbled because I didn't really grow up with survival horror. It wasn't like my genre of choice.
Right.
But to me, it's a game to where the goal of the game is to not only survive and make it out of the predicament that you are in, but the game actively trying to disturb you and scare both you and your character in numerous different ways, and you either can fight back or run from it. That's a survival horror game to me.
Okay.
Do you want all the tags or just the important ones?
Probably just relevant to this conversation.
Survival, open world survival craft, crafting, indie, adventure, difficult, top down, survival horror.
I think my point stands then, because then you add in the fact that it is an open world game and that it is this.
So really, the point that we've come to is that a lot of different games are part survival horror and part, because it's a good point that a lot of video games have moved past like the 90s, when like the late 80s, early 90s, when like Resident Evil was a thing, because I think Resident Evil was 84. Maybe not. Let me
Like,
look
do you
it
mean
up.
like the game that Resident Evil's based off of?
No, the first Resident Evil game.
No, first Resident Evil game was 1995.
What?
PlayStation. Resident
Yeah.
Evil is based off of an NES game that was released in 84.
I think you're 100% right.
It did. For those wondering, we're all looking up on Google.
1996.
1996.
Yep. Yeah, I was way off.
But no, you are actually right, because Resident Evil is based off of a top-down horror game that was released in Japan on the Famicom in the early 80s.
Why do you know that?
I spent a lot of free time learning about video games when I was a kid.
Okay, but here's my point.
Respect.
Yeah, well done.
Thank you.
My original, like, actually, before I tangent off, Aiden, what's a survival horror game to you?
I don't know. That's a scary game. You gotta get from point A to point B. Usually you solve some puzzles. Whole bunch of jump scares.
That was going to be the thing that nobody has mentioned so far in mine. In
Yeah.
the original Resident Evil, the things that you did was you tried to survive against monsters who most of the time weren't worth fighting. That's one of the main keys to, like, is a game survival horror or not, to me, is that survival horror games, yes, you can fight the monsters, but usually you're fighting the monsters as a way to just momentarily get past them.
Yeah.
Or because in Resident Evil, if you killed a zombie, a lot of the time they'd get back up and you had to keep going over. It took a lot to kill a zombie and have them not be there anymore, and that was a choice you were making.
Yeah. It should be not worth it to fight.
Right.
Let me ask you a question. Do you prefer when a survival horror game gives you the option to fight or not?
We have actually mentioned this before. I prefer... So, my favorite is Resident Evil 2. You have the option to fight all of those monsters. It is not worth it to fight all of those monsters. Your defenses are a resource that you are spending. And that's the way that I like it. My thing is, like... And the other thing is that in survival horror games, to me, you're solving puzzles.
Yeah.
Resident Evil, Silent Hill 2, Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3. I mean, I made a dungeon in D&D where one of the goals of it was to go to one room, get a color key, get another color, that unlocks another thing to get another color key. That's a Resident Evil game.
Yeah.
Like, in a nutshell, you're getting, like, the like, bird crest is a Resident Evil staple. Like, you just, like,
you just find this weird signet that somehow unlocks a door.
Right, and that's the thing, is, like, that's survival, like, that's what I grew up on. And even Silent Hill has, like, Silent Hill has horribly complex puzzles.
And you love it.
I love it, because it's one of those things that, like, it's similar to the idea that, like, I don't know how people originally, when it came out, solved Metal Gear Solid 2's, like, is it 2 or 1? It's Metal Gear Solid 1.
Oh,
You have to call Meryl?
I think it's 2.
I think you're talking about 2, because 1 has the Psycho Mantis fight where you have to switch controller ports. 2
Right.
might be the one where you have to call Meryl and figure that out.
I think it's 2. I think it's 1, because you're Snake. You're
Well,
Snake,
in
and
2,
you have to...
you can also be Snake for
Right,
some part
but
of it.
in order, the whole thing with the chief and calling Meryl is in 1.
Okay, what is the Meryl thing that you're referring to?
You have to figure out how to call Meryl to progress the game, and that information is not in the game. It's on the back of the game box.
Yeah, there's also, I think
That's 1. That's
and in one of them as well, you have to look on the, like, case of the disc.
Right.
To find a code.
That's the one I'm talking
That
about.
is?
Is that
Okay.
one?
That's one. You have to look on the back of the case.
Yeah.
And find Meryl's comm number,
Yeah.
and you input that into the thing, and that's how you call Meryl.
I
And you can find that out, I guess, in the game if you bug one of the, like, if you talk to every single one of the characters, and you talk to every single one of the characters, like, it's something ridiculous, like, multiple times. I'm pretty sure you can, one of them is like, just look on the back of the box, Snake. Like,
yeah.
but I don't know how somebody figured that out, like, is that how they did it, the first time they did it? And also the Psycho Mantis thing, where you had to unplug it from controller slot 1 and plug it into controller slot 2. That's wild.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Also super cool.
Also, the Silent Hill puzzle, the bird puzzle. Have you guys heard about this puzzle?
I think you were telling
No.
me about the bird puzzle.
I've told Parker about the bird puzzle. So in Silent Hill,
Oh, is this the one where you play notes on the piano?
it is 100% the point.
Got it.
For those that don't know, Silent Hill had a puzzle. Look it up. The bird puzzle. You had to play a piano and know what different bird call notes were in, and using a poem that described birds, figure out what notes to play in what order. Without
Yeah.
that information being in the game, you had to, like, just know what key different bird calls were in.
I think you were telling me this because there was a conversation going on whether or not that's actually good game design.
I think it is.
I know you agree
And
with that.
our good friend Smiles greatly disagrees.
He does.
I
he
think
does.
it's super interesting and super cool.
I also agree
Yeah.
with that. I'm kind of on that side as well. I think it definitely can be frustrating, but just the idea that is not only in a game, but using all of those to make up one puzzle, it sticks in your mind more than any other puzzle.
I would love to do, like, come up with a really complex puzzle, like, Silent Hill style, like, dungeon again, and have it, rather than just some people who are playing it, like, because that was not Smiles' game at all, but, like, have, like, Aiden in that, where he'd, like, just try and figure out what the puzzle is, and have, like,
God.
people who want to figure out puzzles, like, people who want that, and run that, because I think that would be really interesting to do.
I would also love for Aiden to just go to a computer and keep trying to hack it for 30 minutes, and then just
Yeah.
be like, I got a 20, I'm
That
controlling
is
it
a
now.
good point. Aiden
I-
did just completely...
I would love to play a well thought out horror D&D campaign.
I would also love to do that.
Like,
you did a
a
horror
survival
game.
horror.
I gave up very quickly
Yeah.
on the clock tower mission that we had to solve a puzzle on, because I know you came up with it like that night,
Right.
and I know that it was going to be stupid and enrage me, so I was like, I'm not going to do this.
Right.
The thing is, you've done a horror campaign for me once.
Right.
Way back when I first met you.
Right.
It was still one of the most, like spooky, enthralling
You're
things
talking
that
about the
I've
one
done.
with the train.
Yes.
Yeah.
That, if you do something akin to that with more survival horror elements spread across a certain amount of time, I not only would pay you for that shit, but that's bleeped, but I also know plenty of people that would also pay you for that.
Down. Escape room D&D night.
Hell, I would just record it. and
yeah,
be
I'm-
like, cool.
I'm
good.
down.
Did
Well-
you guys want to know a list of what Google says survival horror games?
Sure.
Yeah.
List it.
Dead Space, Amnesia,
Yes.
Resident Evil,
I was
Alien
gonna get to
Isolation,
Amnesia.
Outlast, Silent Hill, The Evil Within, Soma, System Shock,
Yeah.
Fatal Frame,
Yes.
Eternal Darkness, Dino Crisis, Alan Wake, and Alone in the Dark.
Some of those can be argued.
So here's my thing about that. first of all, shout out to my mom, Ludo.
Yeah.
Who, every time we've brought up any kind of survival horror game on this podcast, has been like, you know what survival horror game you didn't talk about? And I'm like, what? She goes, Fatal Frame. Because my mom hates survival horror games. But for whatever reason, she loves Fatal Frame.
Who does love Fatal Frame?
Have you played Fatal Frame?
I have not, but I've heard a lot about it.
Darby, do you know anything about Fatal Frame?
Nothing. Enlighten me.
So, Fatal Frame is a survival horror game that's, I think it's Japanese, right?
It is Japanese.
And you, like, they're all in different settings, but most of them are in, like, really big, old, like, the paper wall Japanese mansion kind of a thing. And you're fighting ghosts.
As you do.
The problem is, you can't see the ghosts. You have a camera that you have to look through, and it takes you from a third-person perspective to a standing still first-person perspective that you can slowly move a camera around a room, and that's how you see the ghosts that are coming closer to you. And the only way that you can fight the ghosts is by taking pictures of them, because cameras steal a little bit of your soul. So, in doing so, you're able to steal little bits of the ghost's soul until they're gone, until they get completely, like, absorbed into the camera, but you have a limited number of pictures you can take, and the more clear picture of a ghost that you take, the more it captures that ghost, and it's horrifying. And it is one of the scariest survival horror games
like that.
I have ever played.
And
It's
fun
not
fact,
great.
it's a Nintendo-owned property.
It is.
That's wild. That blows my mind. 'Cause
Terrifying.
It is horrifying. Here's my question. Hey, Aiden.
Yeah.
Is Resident Evil 5 a survival horror game?
Resident Evil 5?
Yeah.
No.
No.
I will be
not
the
really.
first one to say two things. One, I love Resident Evil 5.
Oh, God.
I think you're
I
gonna hate me for this.
Love the gameplay in Resident Evil 5. I think it's a fun game.
But it is not a survival horror game. There is not a single point in Resident Evil 5 that I felt fear at all.
I disagree with that statement, actually.
Really?
As a Resident Evil game, I do not like Resident Evil 5. If we're going to look at Resident Evil 5 as, like, The Last of Us, or, like, a fun co-op game, or a fun action game,
Such a fun co-op game.
Resident Evil 5. As a Resident Evil, like, it's really good co-op.
Yeah.
But as a Resident Evil game, it's awful. Aiden and I spent, like, recently,
Yeah, not too long ago.
not too
Played a
long
little bit
ago,
of it.
we just played through, like, more than half of Resident Evil 5 in a day.
Maybe.
Well, we got all the way to the
Swamp.
no, past the swamp.
Did we?
We got to the tents where they were talking about the progenitor virus,
Yeah.
and
I
that's
don't
where
know.
that's where we turned it off. But Chainsaw.
Oh, okay, good point. Good point. Chainsaw Man. Which is literally just an RE4
I don't-
character, just brought back an RE5. Still spooky.
Yeah.
I would like to make a point, actually.
Okay.
I think a lot of people don't give Dead Space the respect it does. It needs. Because
Please, Dead Space is a work of art. Dead Space is a masterpiece.
I think that when RE5 came out and it was not the survival horror game people wanted, Dead Space picked up the torch and ran with it until Dead Space 3, when it just became RE5 again. It carried the torch of survival horror for a couple years, and I think Dead Space 1 and 2 are masterpieces that I just don't hear them talked about as much as they should be.
I haven't played Dead Space 3, so I wouldn't know.
Dead Space 3 had the co-op,
Okay.
and it kind of became RE5.
My thing about any survival horror game is it stops being a survival horror game when destroying or killing the enemies is no longer a resource you are spending.
There was never a point in Dead Space 1. 2, there is definitely a point to where you feel like, oh, I can murder these MFs now. Dead Space 1 in itself, there is never a single point in that game where I felt like, oh, I am not at the pinch of death. At this
So
point.
actually, that's part of okay. One of the best survival horror games, in my opinion, is Alien Isolation.
I still need to play that.
We should record that.
Or
If
play
it's a
Outlast.
survival horror game, I've touched it.
Yeah.
The thing, what is the list you gave? Because Alien Isolation I will play, because I've never played Alien Isolation.
So-
Alien Isolation, Dead Space, Outlast, what was the fourth one?
Silent Hill.
Which one?
Which
though? Like
Down?
Silent Hill 2. 2 is the best one.
2 or 3?
3 is okay. 2 is the best one.
Do you
Amnesia?
think 3 is just okay?
2 is the best one.
Huh?
Amnesia.
So Amnesia, okay. So Amnesia when it first came out was one of the most like it rocked my whole friend group's world.
It revolutionized.
It changed so much because before Amnesia, there wasn't really a game that we in my friend group had played that you just could not fight back. Like even in Resident Evil, it was a resource that you were spending, but you could fight back.
Yeah.
In Amnesia, you had a lantern and you could hide.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
was it.
Yeah.
And that was it. And the water monster was talked about forever. It was crazy.
Well, also because when Amnesia came out was the rise of the YouTube Let's Play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as soon as
So-
PewDiePie put his hands on Amnesia, it skyrocketed the idea of not being able to fight back in a horror game to numerous heights. Because people don't know or don't remember that the game company who made Amnesia made 3 Penumbra games before it that were all basically Amnesia in like mines and in like water levels. And then as soon as Amnesia hit and PewDiePie just like kind of rummaged his hands over it, skyrocket.
So here's my thing. I love that idea. I love Amnesia being a survival horror game where you don't get to fight back. You have to hide
Yeah.
because the monsters will kill you.
Yeah.
My thing about that is that like that brings up like that's less. See the thing is that's like that's just a whole stealth section of a game. Like it's almost completely stealth game, right?
I think I've brought this up on the podcast before, but my biggest issue with survival horror games that you can't fight back is that always, and this is my biggest problem with the first Outlast game, and it's why I just don't enjoy playing Outlast or games like it. As soon as you get to the 50 or 75% mark of that game, it just becomes infuriating. Because you've been doing the hide and the run for so long that you get to the point to where you're just trying to finish the game.
This is exactly the point I was just about to go make, which is that survival horror games are great, but they are like eating cookies.
Yeah.
You have 1 or 2 and you're like, this is really nice. I'm really enjoying this. You have 7 and you're like,
This is a bit much.
okay, that was a lot of cookies. And then you have like 12 to 14 and you're like, I don't want to eat any more cookies.
Yeah.
I just don't want to
A
eat
survival
any more
horror game should
cookies.
only be so long.
Right, but or you do, because okay, here's the problem with Resident Evil 5 and like even 4. From the start of those games, from the start, 5 more so because they give you too much ammo. In 4, they didn't give you a lot of ammo. You had to like find it where you could find it, and it felt like you were like scavenging people, like scavenging. Also, if you look at those from a perspective of like, these are just towns of like innocent people who got corrupted, and like the virus was able to be cured in Leon and Ashley. Was it able to be cured in all those people that you murdered? Oop. Yikes. I actually think it wasn't. I think it says like after a certain amount of time it's incurable, but
Yeah.
my thing is you start those games being able to just destroy things. Like the town square fight in Resident Evil 4, the first fight in Resident Evil 4 where you see the Chainsaw Man. You can win that fight. And if you are good at the game, you do win that fight. Because you just shoot everybody in the knee and you
You use
kill
the
them.
ladders, you go up through different houses.
You use the ladders, you use the melee attacks. The instant kill melee attacks.
Stupid looking back, but fun nonetheless.
But here's the thing. So you use these mechanics to be a badass. And I know that just got censored, but you know,
Yeah.
to just kick butt. It's hard to say.
It's just kind of limiting after a
It
while.
is, yeah, well, it's hard to say.
You gotta start thinking with baby brain.
Like, I
after a
can't
while.
think of like what is a better thing to say than badass.
Hachimama.
It's just anyway.
Bad dude.
A bad dude. You're a real tough guy.
So there you
That's
go.
Real-
better.
You're a real tough guy.
Tough T.
I
Anyway.
love how you said bad and kick butt immediately
Kick
after.
butt.
Yeah,
Tough guy. Anyway, oh god.
we're slowly turning into parents. Like
Anyway, well, yeah. I do so much momming on D&D, okay? I didn't expect it, but it's my life now. Anyway, difference is, in Alien Isolation, you don't. You start off like Amnesia. You have to hide from the alien or it will instant murder you.
Yeah.
But as the game goes on, you get a flamethrower. And I think you get the Colonial Marines machine gun kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And you can then start laying waste to aliens, but it's at that point, and I mean minor spoilers for Alien Isolation. It's not gonna help you. Later in the game, there's you.
Oh, don't you fight humans?
No. Well, you might. I don't remember. You
fight
do several times, but
aren't there like robot people?
yeah, and
Yeah.
some humans at some points.
Uh.
But you fight a lot of aliens. They come at you, like a lot of them, and you can only really scare them away with the flamethrower because you don't want to shoot them with the guns because they'll splash acid on you and murder you.
Yeah.
So is that the best way to make a survival horror game then?
I think survival horror games need that escalation. I think you need to start weak. Because, like, I talked to a lot of people who played Amnesia and never finished it.
I never
That
finished Outlast.
makes
I only
a lot of
watched it being
sense.
finished.
I finished Outlast. It was more of the same the entire game. And the thing is that I think good survival horror games, good survival horror games either have a story that drives their mechanic. Like, Silent Hill 2 is a lot of the same stuff throughout the game. But you are constantly trying to figure out what's going on. And that story makes it so that you're not just eating 17 cookies.
Yeah.
The story. I think the story is the most pivotal thing in a survival horror game.
Ooh. We've come to the apex of this conversation. A story is the most important part of a survival horror game.
Not like
Yeah.
the combat can be the physics can be but if the story is there and it pulls you, it will drive you to finish the game.
Is the most important part of horror the story?
Okay.
Yes.
Depends on what person you
I would
are.
say the atmosphere is the most important thing of a horror.
Absolutely the story, because I will sit and I will not play through one. I will watch somebody else play through one. And be scared in the moment and be like, but a story sticks with you.
That raises because I think both need to work in tandem then. Because you can watch somebody play
Oh,
a horror
yeah.
game and the story is what keeps
Sound-
you. But when you're playing it, you need that act.
Sound
No.
is so much more important than visual in horror, I think.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
Yeah.
But I've seen like 8-bit games and been horrified
Yeah.
and have like nothing really be scary about it other than the fact that it's a scary story.
Yeah.
Concepts.
Yeah.
What are some examples of good survival horror stories then?
Silent Hill 2. Which,
Besides that, because I know we've
spoilers for Silent Hill 2. At the end... Oh, never mind. I'm not going to talk about this then. If Aiden... Huh?
You can go ahead.
Okay.
let me do it as well.
No, I mean, if it's
And
only...
it's just me and
Yeah,
her.
I'm not just gonna tell, but the story of Silent Hill 2 is really good. Finding out why James is there is really, really good. And like, I mean, it's played out now, but
James is Sean Bean, right? In the bad movies.
no.
No?
Well,
Who's-
okay, they kind of combine Harry Mason and James Sunderland's characters in those movies.
Okay. We don't have to go on about
it's bad.
Yeah.
So Silent Hill 2, I would say Dead Space, even though that's also kind of antiquated, but I do like a Dead Space story a lot.
Yeah.
But
But
the idea of Dead Space is creepy.
well, yeah, the concepts behind Dead Space is
Just
awful.
being an engineer, being stuck on a ship filled with like things that you like.
Trying to get away.
That you're
trying to
trying
get,
to get
out
away
of that
from.
shit.
Necromorphs are also one of the scariest, if not the scariest enemy type in all of video games. At least to me. The idea of just a thing of multiple different limbs and body parts coming at you.
Also, you know what's good about Dead Space? You get the feel of the character, like when he's stomping on a necromorph. You're like,
Also,
God,
that's
like-
a great example of a game that uses the HUD realistically to how the game presents itself. That game's
Yeah.
HUD is literally just his body, his suit, which is how it's designed.
Oh,
and then
yeah.
when you go into the inventory, it's him looking at his inventory screen.
yeah,
It's so well designed for that.
yeah. That's
That's-
pretty.
The pinnacle of like good.
It really
atmosphere.
makes you attached to Isaac Clarke.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also, can we just say Isaac Clarke's helmet is so cool?
Oh,
Yeah.
So good.
It's so cool.
The Dead Space 2 Isaac Clarke helmet is.
Yeah. But good stories in survival horror games. Resident Evil, when it first came out, like, it's obviously really played out now, but the idea of, like, oh, underneath this old mansion, there's, like, a whole lab and they're creating these things as some sort of like weapon
Yeah.
I wouldn't
for
say
the
Resident
government.
Evil myself, but I also know that I didn't grow up with it.
But back in 94,
96.
96, yeah, that was like. There's a reason they made movies about it.
True, and also you could, if for that same reason, you could say the first Alone in the Dark game
Right.
has a good story for its time.
I never said who my Smash Brothers character would be.
Andre the Giant.
Aiden's grown.
Blart.
No, my
Paul Blart.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Oh,
no.
no. I just meant good segue.
That was good.
Darby, not you two.
That was pretty good.
Please.
What is your Smash Brothers character?
Okay, continue.
Is it Nemesis with a nose?
No, however, that's good.
Is it Nemesis's nose?
No.
Is it Luke Scolari?
No, it's the nemesis to this podcast, Aiden's mom, Miss Crystal.
Oh.
Also our only fan.
Did you just say
Nemesis?
Nemesis to this podcast?
Do you know what a nemesis is?
Yeah. The penultimate enemy. The person who's constantly against this podcast.
I mean, she doesn't like it.
Oh,
Obviously.
she doesn't.
No, nobody likes this podcast.
Why would anybody like it?
We gotta stop being self-deprecating.
If
on the
you
podcast.
like this podcast, comment below.
Give it a like,
Give
weirdo.
it a like. Yeah, nobody likes this podcast.
Also-
Don't be
Literally.
like, hey, I liked this podcast. Like the podcast.
If you want to, please share our content. We'd
Sure.
really appreciate it. We
Share the
will shout
podcast.
you out.
We'll shout you out.
Yeah.
Also, if you want to see us play a horror game, maybe we'll do it.
please
Tell
let
us
us
what
know.
horror game.
Let us know what topics you'd like us to talk about, even if we don't know information about that topic. If we have enough time in advance, we'll look up stuff and talk about
We
that topic.
didn't think we were gonna be talking about survival horror for longer than 15 minutes.
I knew we
and
could.
and we did a whole pot. Aiden and I didn't think we could do it for more
well,
than 15 minutes.
I could talk about survival horror forever.
Couldn't talk
We
about
could
Smash
really
Bros.
anything
forever.
We couldn't talk about Smash Bros. Forever.
No.
But Miss Crystal would have been a good Smash Brothers character, which I believe brings us to the end of our podcast. Thanks for listening, everybody. I hope you had a good time listening to us to ramble on about survival horror and all of that nonsense. And as always,
Thank
you,
you,
Miss
Miss
Crystal.
Crystal.